Hey everyone, I'm going to go ahead and just get into this, and if you can see the title, you can see exactly what this video is going to be about. If you can't, I have seizures, non-epileptic, psychosocial non-epileptic seizures specifically. I'm going to describe my experience, my history with them, and what my future currently looks like with them. I'm not going to dramatize it. I'm not going to beg for sympathy or anything like that. I'm definitely not going to ask for money or anything. Nothing like that. But I want to mainly put this out there to do a couple things. Number one is to see if I can hopefully encourage anybody who has similar experiences, psychosocial non-epileptic seizures, conversion disorder, or any other diagnosis that are similar to this are kind of an anomaly. Not in the way that they're all that rare, but more in the fact that not a lot is truly known about them. The cause is basically a mystery. It can be many different guesses of what it is, but nothing has ever really been nailed down, and there's not really a lot of encouragement on finding a cure in a way, because we don't know what even causes it. So, number one is to connect with people. Encourage that. Connect and tell my story and see if maybe that can help people. Number two is also to explain to the people who have been connected to my channel, which I don't have a large following at the moment, but there have been people that have followed this channel for a while. I want to let them know why the videos have been extremely inconsistent and all of that, and it's because I've been kind of focused on this and focused on ministry, not on YouTube. So let's get into this. So first of all, I have dealt with some level of this since I was around 14, 15 years old, and those were not seizures at the beginning, or at least I didn't think so. What it began with was I would pass out, and I'm talking just full pass out. I could be sitting here talking, and then I would just kind of blank face, just kind of stare off, and then slumped, passed out, and I'd wake up and I'd have this massive migraine pain. And that persisted for many, many years. It would come and go in basically what we called seasons. These seasons would be maybe months at a time. It could be couple weeks at a time and then off for a couple weeks. There were even periods of time where it would be maybe a year almost that I wouldn't have one. I think the longest period was almost a year, right about a year. But they were very damaging to my life. At one point, I was working at a very large corporation. I won't tell a name, but I was working at a very large corporation, and I had to go on an intermittent FMLA leave. Essentially, the leave said that I wouldn't get paid for these days, but because these migraines that I would have after passing out made it so difficult for me to drive, because I was still driving at this point, and for a long time after, it made it so difficult for me to drive that I couldn't work on those days specifically. So what I ended up having to do was I had this intermittent leave, and I could call and I could basically call off, but I could do this without penalty. Well, I did, and I pushed that FMLA intermittent leave to the extent of its use. Not in any egregious way, not in any inappropriate way. It was all used the way it was supposed to be, just unfortunately I really dealt with the issues that much. I did pursue at that time some medical care for it, but to be honest, we were just looking at it as, you deal with migraines, you know. They thought the passing out part was some kind of syncope, and they didn't really seem all that worried about it in a way, which is really weird, because passing out is not normal. But it wasn't looked at as that big of an issue. Instead, we started treating more migraine issue. In fact, at one point, we went to more of a holistic treatment. And what we ended up trying was massage therapy. I tried one appointment of that, and it was not for me. I'm a very private guy, and no, not appropriate for me. I could not do it. So anyways, and I'm not knocking it if somebody else likes it. That's totally fine. But everybody has their own boundaries, and that was just not for me. So, but around that same time is, I think, when it coincided where I happened to get out of one of the seasons of it, and I was doing better for a while. Well, that would last for quite a while, and this would also coincide with the time that I got into working in nursing homes. And I worked in nursing homes as an activity director. And if you know anything about an activity director's job, basically you do the fun stuff. You do a lot of fun stuff. You guide games, activities, that's in the name, duh. But you also set up like entertainment. You have to drive a bus, at a lot of places at least. You have to do fun stuff. So, thing is, I would work at a couple different places, and I would have these health issues come back up until one place, and I won't say names again, just for reasons. I'm still connected with some people, but I would be working at one place, and this was 3 years ago now, I believe. 2.5, 3 years ago. And I went into an office with my coworker, and I was getting some materials out, and as I was standing there, I felt as if I was going to have one of my migraines. And I didn't explain this yet, but when I have this, I know I get a pretty good sense that it's coming on. So what would happen for me, to share my experience, is I would get this feeling that I like to call a fog. It's like you're driving in a thick fog. It's like you can tell something's about to happen. You can tell that something's not right, but you can't tell where you're going. You can't tell, what you're supposed to do next. And it's like you can't think properly. So that's how I always felt when these were about to happen. And I would just kind of, on the outside, freeze up, like just done. Couldn't do anything. And a lot of times I would just fall. A lot of times I would, unless I could recognize this early enough. I could lay down or something, or somebody could see it and they could help me. So I had a really good support system a lot of the time. Well, anyways, I was at work this time 2.5, 3 years ago, and I was in this room with my coworker, and once again I was grabbing some stuff, And that's about all I remember, because I felt that fogginess and then boom, out. But then I woke up, and instead of it being just that normal feeling of like this horrible migraine pain, and it was always horrible, but instead of it being that, there was something different going on. And it was like I woke up and my body felt like this incredible tingling feeling. And I say incredible not in a great way, like incredible like I'd never felt it before and couldn't believe it. But this tingling feeling all the way through my body, and it felt as if I wasn't in control. It felt like something was wrong. And I woke up and I heard my coworker describing me and saying, he's in his 20s. I don't know, something along those lines. And then she said, just hurry, just hurry. And I realized she's on a phone call, and went back out. And I thought, like, I didn't know what happened. But I woke up again, and now the DON of the nursing home is above me. She's holding onto my hand, and I feel worse now. I feel even worse. And she's saying, stay with me, breathe. And I legitimately thought, I'm dying. This is what dying is. And for that split second, I looked and I thought, okay, my kids are going to grow up without a dad. I have 5 kids. If any of you are watching this and have not checked out my channel, I have 5 kids. At the time, I only had 4. One of them was not born yet. My wife was pregnant with him. And I thought, okay, so he's going to grow up, never see his dad. The rest of the kids are going to grow up. Some of them are going to be so young, they're not going to even remember me. And wow, my wife is no longer going to have a husband. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I didn't know what this was, and I legitimately thought I was dying. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. And I'm not trying to just plug religion or anything, but I also felt a peace. And it's because I knew exactly where I was going. And it was because of my Savior that I knew exactly where I was going. I felt as if like everything was going to be okay regardless. The only discomfort I felt was about my wife and kids. I just felt like, man, I wish I had more time with them. But I also felt like if it is this way, I know something will happen where they'll be taken care of. So, but that second time lasted a little bit longer. I had enough time for these thoughts and then back out. And then I woke up again. And this time I stayed awake. But I woke up to paramedics coming in the door of this office, a bunch of people in this office, a decent amount, I should say. Co-workers directly in my department. The original co-worker who was there when the incident began. The DON, the assistant DON, a couple others. I can't remember who all. And these paramedics. And the paramedics cleared the room. Aside from the DON, the assistant DON, and my original coworker, and they were asking questions to the original coworker, and they began asking me questions. And when they began asking me questions, I realized I basically cannot talk. I went to go answer just what my name was, and I was saying John Rogers. That's how I had to talk. And after a little bit, everything started to calm down. But I realized I had no feeling in any of my lower extremities. Nothing of my arms, nothing of my legs. It wouldn't be until I got onto the stretcher that I got feeling back in my legs. They had to help me onto the stretcher, help me walk onto it. They basically had to walk me onto it. It wouldn't be almost until I got to the hospital and a decent amount of time into the hospital that I could move my hands again. What I didn't know is I had a series of seizures, 3 seizures in a row, as my DON told me. First time I had ever had seizures in my life. What would be even crazier is that when I got to the hospital, again, I won't say what hospital, I won't say anything like that. When I got to this hospital, they first of all, they put me in the waiting room. Though I came by ambulance, they put me in the waiting room. And then, once I got into ER triage, they put me there, checked me over for a little bit, and were like, okay, we're going to put you outside of a room for a minute. They put me in a chair outside of a room, in a hallway. My wife arrives because she had to drop our kids off down at my mom's for her to watch them. She arrives. She's freaked out. She had no clue exactly what had happened. She arrives. We're waiting there. And by the time everything happened, by the time they actually come and talk to me, they go, so you had a seizure, right? And yeah, I guess. That's what I was told. Okay, you have epilepsy. It's the first time I've ever had a seizure. What's going to happen? Like, are you going to do a scan or something? No, you have epilepsy. I've never had a seizure before in my life. You had 3 in a row. You have epilepsy. Okay. And they shoved the medication on me. To be honest, I don't remember the medication's name. But they just immediately said I had epilepsy. Diagnosed me with epilepsy right on the spot, which would be incorrect. But we'll get to why it was incorrect here in a little bit. So I walked away with a diagnosis of epilepsy, just figuring, okay, I don't know how I'm epileptic, but I guess, I don't know. I've never had a seizure before, and sure. Couple days later, I have another seizure, and this is at home. And my wife is taking care of me, and she manages to get through it. She manages to hold me down and, or not hold me down, but she manages to watch over me and take care of me while it's happening. And she would learn more afterward of how to properly take care of someone during a seizure. Because then about another 2-3 days later, another one. And then after that, none for a long time. It would go back to my normal migraines and passing out. And it was really weird. It was like these were isolated. And so we were questioning. But I got referred to a neurologist. And when I got to go to this neurologist, we began talking about all the possibilities. And he instantly said, well, you're not epileptic. That's the first thing. I really don't think you're epileptic. And he said, but I can't say definitively. And I said, okay, well, how is this determined? And he said, well, we have to do this overnight study where you have to stay in a hospital. But he said, I don't think you're ready for that. I don't think that's something that we need to do. I said, okay. And he said, we need to catch you having one of these episodes. And I said, okay. Well, we put it off and we put it off and we put it off. And over the next year, he would leave the neurology. And I was in a waiting period of getting a new neurologist. Well, at the same time, I became the pastor of a church, and a lot of things were going on in life in general. And very shortly into this process, my normal became different. My normal would change because the just passing out became tonic-clonic seizures. And it got to a point where I would no longer just pass out, wake up with a migraine. Instead, pass out and I don't wake up. Instead, I pass out, start tensing up, convulsing, shaking, and every muscle is tensed. Every part of me is shaking. And my wife is terrified. My wife doesn't know what to do. The kids are terrified. And at the beginning, this is all so scary. And I had multiple hospital trips, multiple times that we went and got this checked out. I had CAT scans. We went and did about everything that you could do other than that study. So we pursued about everything we could do and nothing was showing any results. So continue along, and I'm still working. I'm still driving. I'm still doing everything that I can do independently. But I'm having these seizures, and I'm having them more and more and more often. And finally, it gets to a point where I'm having more and more problems. And one part that I had actually, I apologize, I looked over. I had recently left a workplace before they actually got to the point of seizures. Because I was having the migraine issue so many times, and they had actually seen me have this and basically said, well, we're going to move the goalposts of exactly what's required on your doctor's paperwork, and we're going to make it where you have to, you have to get more and more doctor's paperwork. And I said, well, there's not much more I can get. And so I quit. I quit from that place, and I was now looking at, what were my options. I had another job lined up, but this is around the time that the seizures started, while I was waiting for that job to come through. And it was actually around the same time that we took the trip that you can actually watch here on YouTube to Pineville, Kentucky. And it was really damaging. It was really, that trip was wonderful, but overall, that time of life was very, very damaging. And so, while we were on that trip, we had a choice to make, because I could either come back, take a job, and go forward, or I could pursue being on disability. And then the seizures got worse and worse and worse. And so the choice became easy. I ended up deciding I was not going to continue, because I knew anywhere I went to, I was going to be a liability. I was going to be a eventual cause for them to look to getting rid of. There was going to be something that they were going to bring up, whether it be an attendance issue, or whether it be, you're just not safe here, or whatever it was going to be. They were going to make it something where it was nice, oh, we just feel like the best thing for you is to focus on your health. But they were going to let me go. And it was not going to work. Working in a nursing home, they're already trying to focus on other people and the health of them. They can't be focusing on the health of their employees in that way, where they're constantly nursing them. And we had some very hard conversations, me and my wife, about how at previous places, when my health wasn't even quite as bad, they were basically babysitting me. They were always kind of having to keep an eye out for, where's John? Is he passed out somewhere? Is something bad going on? Is he all right? And people had to drive me home some days because I couldn't see to drive because of my migraines and stuff. Like, there was always something. So once it got to be where I'm having full-on seizures, it was no longer possible. So we started pursuing disability, which was extremely not fun. Let's put it that way. It was easy in a way, because unlike what a lot of people's experience with disability is like, I had an extensive medical background on what my issue was. I had gone to the doctor many times. I had gone to the hospital many times. The only thing that I was possibly missing was that study that I mentioned. But otherwise, I had done everything. I had scans, I'd done everything you could do to show that this was a legitimate medical issue. I had been through issues at work showing that it was a legitimate medical issue. To put it in a not so nice way, I'd gone through hell and back to show that I'm legitimately dealing with this. This wasn't like oh, I slipped on a banana peel and now my back slightly aches and oh, now I need time off work. No, it was nothing like that. Like, I've legitimately dealt with this for over half my life now, and it to some degree, and now it's progressing and it's getting worse. So when it came time for me to go on disability, it really was not that much of a fight. It was really easy. So one big step though was I had to go and do this appointment, and it was a video EEG where I had to stay in the hospital for, I actually was going to be up to like 5 days, and it only ended up being 3 for me. And I want to talk about that experience because anybody that this video is reaching, and I don't know what the range that this video will have, but I pray this video reaches people that may be dealing with this. If you go for an appointment where you're trying to see whether you have psychogenic non-epileptic seizures or epilepsy, this is what you should be ready for. A video EEG is an appointment where, is a experience where you are going to be in a hospital and you're going to have a camera watching you at all times. And it's not going to be just recording, it's going to be live streaming to the doctors. They will be live watching you. But on top of that, they are going to do things to make sure you have seizures. They want to see exactly what is going on. So one thing that they do is they connect all these electrodes, I believe that's the right term, to your head to do an EEG. It's like a standard EEG, but it's not fun. The biggest part about it is that it's connected at all times, and there's this bag that comes down to the side that you have to keep completely dry. It sits in a it's a box that sits in a bag, I should say, and because of that, you can't shower, you can't bathe, you can't do any of that, and it's heavy. It's not super heavy, but it's something hanging from your head, so you always kind of feel like you're like leaning a little bit to whatever side they put it on. So it's kind of uncomfortable. Along with it, they're going to have something attached to, you got a pulse ox constantly attached to your finger. And they are going to have, what is it called? More EKGs attached to your chest. And that's to make sure that it's not a heart issue, a cardio issue. And so they want to read, while you're having one, about your heart. And so when they do this, it's quite uncomfortable because any movements, you feel every movement with those things on, or at least I do. I was never comfortable. And then you're in a hospital bed, and it's pretty uncomfortable. Now, the other part of this is they also come and do a lot of testing with you. And the testing I'm talking about is they do strobe lights, and I'm not talking like little party lights. I'm talking like intense, super fast, flashing strobe lights that are meant to purposely send you into a seizure if you are photosensitive, light sensitive, you know, that would purposely send you into a seizure. That is the purpose of that. The other part is that they try to, well, this is the purpose of that, is to stress your brain. They also will at the same time purposely have you do one of two, I think it's only one of two, I don't know how many they have, breathing tests, which one, I believe, was the purpose of seeing how long you could hold in a breath and then go out, if I remember correctly. But the second is the one they had me do the most, which was hyperventilating yourself purposely for a long time. It was like a minute and a half, which doesn't sound that long, but when you are purposely hyperventilating, not fun. But the worst part of all is that they sleep deprivate you. And so when they do that, you're doing all of these things at 3 a.m. So, or shortly before 3 a.m. and you can't go to sleep until 3 a.m. So imagine this. You come in, you have all day that you're sitting in a bed. The cable in there is just boring. You know, you're scrolling on your phone. You really don't have anything to do. And then nighttime, you know, it's just boring. And then you get to late at night, you are just barely awake. And then they come in, flashing lights, hyperventilation, blah, 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 asking you questions. You can finally fall asleep at 3 a.m. It is a lot. To make matters worse, I did something extremely stupid. And I purposely did sleep deprivation the 2 days before I went and did this. That was dumb. But it may have helped slightly. Because I went into a seizure on the second day. They still held me for a third day. Or into the third day. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, they still held me overnight on the second day into the third day and then released me on the third day. I guess that's how you should say it. But I had a seizure on the second day. And here's how that process went. So I'm attached to the video EEG, sorry. And when it started, I got the aura where it felt like the fogginess and everything. And because they video it, they actually were able to show my wife later on everything that happened. And they actually needed to verify with her to make sure that it seemed like the normal seizures that I'd been having. So they showed her from beginning to end everything that happened. So this is about how it went down. At the beginning, I was staring off and I was kind of looking forward, and clearly what was happening. And I remember this. I remember this portion and a little further past this. I was feeling that feeling, but I was kind of like, is this really that feeling? Sometimes it doesn't come on all that strong. Sometimes you're just kind of like, am I like tired? Am I like having allergies? What exactly is this? And then it started hitting harder. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. And so I grabbed my button, and they give an emergency button that you're supposed to hit if you're going into a seizure, or you feel like you're going to. So I hit my button, and immediately it sent this alarm, and you could hear it. They hear it louder outside, I believe, and they started running in. I would say it was about 5 nurses and doctors, and so they all come running in. And there was one person that was manning like the computer. There was one person who was taking vitals, and about 3 that were waiting for me to go into a seizure. And the one that was taking my vitals was, I hate to say it, kind of waiting, you know. They were taking my vitals, but they were also like waiting for things to get intense, which was a weird kind of feeling. Like, it was like, you know better than I do exactly what's about to happen, and it's kind of crazy. But I remember that they asked me some questions, and I remember one specifically being this statement that they had asked me to read before, like earlier in the day even. And I don't remember, of course, what it is now, but it was like some basic statement, like some sentence. And I don't remember if I read it correctly. I think I did, but at some point during them talking to me, I basically went from answering to not answering and just blank-faced, and then passed out. Just completely passed out, and I passed out like leaning to my right, and then was out for, I'd say, like 3 seconds or so, and then came back into the seizure, and I started seizing up real hard, and they were kind of, it's weird, but they weren't trying to stop the seizure or like to even hold on to me that tight or anything. It was more like just trying to make sure I didn't hurt myself, but they were trying to observe exactly what happens. So they were watching all my movements and all of that. So I have this, and when I woke up, I just remember like I was in pain, and I wake up every time from the seizures. I'm like, the feeling after a seizure is like your body feels extremely tired, number one. You feel like you've done this like intense exercise. You feel like you've done a lot of stretching. But at the same time, your body feels like it needs to stretch. Like, it's this almost paradoxical feeling of like, you feel like a Charlie horse is coming on to all of your body in a way, but it feels so painful. Like, it hurts terribly. But it's awful. It is awful. And it just makes you feel so tired. And it's something called post-ictal phase, which I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor. I could not explain it very well. From the basic understanding I have is it's your brain repairing itself, kind of. It's literally like you kind of need to sleep, or I don't know if you technically should, but I think you technically are supposed to. Most of the time I try to. Like, yeah, your brain tries to go to sleep like after a seizure. So you get extremely tired. So long story short, they start asking me questions, and one of the questions was the statement, the little sentence. And I was able to read it, of course, but it was like, you know, I just felt in pain, you know, teeth chattering a little bit, and all of this. Well, at the same time as my seizure was going on, apparently my wife got there. And she was visiting me for the day, you know. She didn't stay overnight at the hospital because of our kids. And she was getting there. So she walked in as I'm having this seizure. And she's like, oh my goodness, I got here at the maybe worst or best time, however you want to look at it. So it was a whole thing. But anyways, so when things calmed down, and I got to relax and just lay down. I fell asleep for a while, and when I woke back up, they had a neurologist come in. It was the neurologist that had been taking care of me the whole time I was in the hospital for that time. He came in and he talked to me and he said, okay, so we have some results for you. And we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to probably keep you another night. But then from there, I don't really see a purpose in keeping you any longer. But he said, during your seizure, we observed that obviously you are having a seizure. You're having full-on seizure. But you're not having an epileptic seizure. He said you're having a non-epileptic seizure, a psychogenic non-epileptic seizure, in the form of that, and I'm going to explain this to the layman's terms, I guess the non-scientific, again, the fact that the brain waves didn't really change in a pattern that we would see with epilepsy. There was basically no change, or not what we would see consistent with epilepsy. And so he said that it's non-epileptic, because in epilepsy they see, when the seizure occurs, the brain waves change in the brain, and that's what basically causes the seizure. With non-epileptic, they don't know. It doesn't change, so they don't know what causes it. Essentially, there is no answer to what causes a psychogenic non-epileptic seizure. That's kind of the golden question, you know, and that's what there needs to be an answer about. There's a lot of guesses. There's a lot of people giving their answers, but I guess it could even be different from person to person. I don't know. So anyways, we talked for a while. He gave me some recommendations, and I ended up staying the night, of course. And then on the third day, I got discharged. When I got discharged, I cannot tell you enough how scared I was that I was going to go bald. Because when they take those EEGs, the EEG monitor things off, there's glue. And first of all, my hair was like stuck in place because of the glue. And the spots, the glue is like, it comes right off. Well, it doesn't come right off. I had to wash my hair, I can't tell you how many times to get it off, but it does come off. But the spots were like circles in my head, like around the hair. So it made it look like I had these massive bald spots where truthfully my hair just went around it. But I was so terrified that, like, I'm not going to have any hair left. I'm going to have to just shave all this off. Like, I thought legitimately I'm going to have to go from Wonderbeard to Wonderbald. Like, I was so scared. But anyways, so I got discharged. We left, me and my wife, and everything seemed fine. But they basically told me, like, okay, now we're not going to continue with neurology. And I was like, okay, what are we continuing with? And they put me into CPT, cognitive progressive therapy. I believe that's how it's actually the way that I learned it. So yeah, I know it's called CPT now, but cognitive behavioral therapy is CBT. The one that I'm specifically in, they call it CPT. I don't know what it stands for. I think it's that. But cognitive behavioral therapy is what I initially learned it as. And it essentially is trying to help with what trauma or stress could have potentially put me into this, because they think it could be a PTSD type of situation that is causing me my seizures. And while I won't say that's not possible, for those of you who have been around the channel long enough, I even tried to take my life. Well, I came really close to making an actual attempt. The whole story is on my YouTube channel. It's like my first video. I came really close to making an attempt on my life at 13 years old. And then all of this started at like 14. So it's definitely possible in a way. But would I say this is the only possible route? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. But at the same time, all I can do right now is lean on God and let Him lead me. So I know that in everything I'm strengthened by Him and that I trust in Him. And I know a lot of people are going to go, well, He clearly is not, healing you. He's clearly not doing anything like that. Okay, but healing can come in time, number one. Number two, there may be a reason that I'm dealing with this and it can impact people, or it's meant to connect someone, or it's meant to show something. Even the strength that I have to deal with, my kids have to be kind of like nurses to me when I'm dealing with this. My wife has to show a lot of strength, and we still look to God. We still look to God in everything. So I pray in some way, shape, or form that this blesses you. The biggest thing now is looking to my future, because currently my situation is this. I no longer drive. I stopped driving shortly after, getting towards the disability point, because I'm no longer safe to drive. I really, there have been some times that I don't know that the seizure's coming on. And when I got to that point, I really thought, okay, I'm taking other people's lives into my hands, and I can't risk that. So Rachel drives us exclusively now. I do not drive unless it would have been an emergency situation, which we have not run into yet. So I do not drive at all. Like I said, if it would be an emergency, sure, but no, I don't drive. Other than that, let me see. I'm still pastoring the church because that still fits in with the disability thing. I've checked very carefully on that part. The way that my pay is set up with the church works with it, and it's also under the certain amount that it needs to be, so it works. But even if I had to do it for free, I would. I love what I do, and I would never change that. I like I said, I am receiving disability, so that's my income from my family. I wish I could work. I wish I could in a way, but at the same time, it's not realistic right now, and I hope I can get back to that one day, but we'll see. It's all in God's timing. The biggest thing is now I got to focus on how can I get healthy, and I'm doing everything I can. I want to focus on my physical health. I don't mean necessarily just going to like a gym or anything. I am going to try to improve my physical health with actual working out and everything. I'm also trying to improve my mental health. I am doing those therapy sessions. I am over halfway into a 15-week program with it. I am not a Christian that says like, oh, therapy's the devil. I don't say that. I think God gives us tools, including medicine, including therapy, including people who are skilled at these things, and as long as it's not an anti-God type of therapy, yeah, you can definitely do it. And my therapist leans into my religion, so I think that's good. Also, I'm leaning heavily into, of course, my faith, and that's the biggest thing. You know, I truthfully believe that God has me going through this for a reason, and I believe that one day, even if it's something that I eventually will never see, maybe if it's solely for the purpose of making this video and impacting even one person, maybe that's the whole reason I'm going through this. I don't know. But I trust in Him wholeheartedly. Lean not on thine own understanding. So I don't care what it is that it's meant to be the impact. I'm not leaning on my own understanding. I'm leaning on His will. So I trust Him entirely. It's my life, but He owns it. So anyways, guys, I wanted to take just this last second to thank everybody. Whether this is your first moment learning about this, or whether you've been one of the ones praying for me, caring for me, loving me through all of this, I love you. And I thank you for everything. You mean the world to me. God bless you. I'm sorry I didn't edit this video. The most important thing is that I get it up. And editing, it's going to take more time. I'm having seizures about every 2 days, 2 to 3 days. So I'm not doing too well with like timing through everything and, you know, all of that. So I'm really wanting to try and get things up quick. We actually are going to Reds Fest tomorrow morning. And so I'm just trying to get everything pumped out because Reds Fest video will take me longer. And I want to get this up as soon as possible. So God bless you. I pray you have a blessed one. See ya.